Welcome to the IoT session, or the connected home. So let's talk about AWS IoT. I'm really happy about this service. I was fortunate enough to be part of the launch. What is AWS IoT? We launched it at re:Invent last year, so around November. With AWS IoT, you can securely connect one device or 1 billion devices to AWS. It's easy for anybody to connect a device. I will show you how with live demos. And the only way to connect is secure. There is no insecure option, so that's good. And it's really easy to get going. Let's talk first about security. With IoT, security is even more important than server-side systems. Why? Because the devices are out there. They're literally out there. So the IoT device might be measuring the water level in a Singapore canal, for example. It might be controlling some traffic lights, some bus stop or whatever. So people can technically go there, unscrew it and take it home. So security is even more important there. What is security? Well, you need to do things like strong authentication. Is this my device? Is this somebody else's device trying to look like my device? Once you have done authentication, you need to authorize access. What can the device do? Can it delete my AWS account? Can it do billing things? Can it destroy my database? No, hopefully not. And then, of course, end-to-end communication, because again, the devices are out there. They might use whatever communication, some radio links, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, GPRS, 3G, 4G, anything. So let's start with authentication. AWS IoT brings the standard internet security technologies to the world of IoT. TLS, mutual authentication, X509 certificates that you create. They are signed with server certificates with a chain to the root certificate. You can have your own certificates. And then you create the client certificate. And when the device connects, your IoT device connects, it has to present the certificate. Hello, I'm this guy, this is my certificate. Have I been signed with the server certificate? So standard authentication from internet side. Next is then communication. And there you need keys. So you generate the keys, you put them on the device, and using the keys, you can have end-to-end encryption. End-to-end encryption of the traffic, so no man-in-the-middle problems. You need to protect the keys on the devices. On Linux-based IoT devices, you can use software protection like key rotation. And on some IoT devices where you have control of the hardware, there are hardware modules that can help you protect the keys. So we have SDKs that make it easy. When you use the AWS client-side SDK, then all those security things like authentication and using the keys and certificates is automated on your behalf. Next, say we've done the authentication. So we are successfully saying that yes, we are the right device. How do you actually talk to the cloud? The IoT devices are small. They are literally small. They are supposed to be cheap, low power, and have efficient utilization of the network link, which might be GPRS, 2G, for example, or even Bluetooth or something. So you don't want to have high bandwidth chatty connections. MQTT is a standard protocol, open source standard protocol, that has become really popular in IoT. So that's what we start with. What is MQTT? Well, let's compare it to HTTPS. With MQTT, you can have 93 times, not percentage, times faster throughput. 12 times less battery power needed to send data, 170 times less battery needed to receive data back. 50% less power to keep your device connected with health check ping intervals, and 8 times less network overhead, so utilization of the bandwidth. So much better for small constrained devices and funky network connections. How does MQTT work? Technically, it's a pub-sub interface, so publish and subscribe. You have a topic that you name, like my devices, all my devices. And here, this topic, you have my devices /hash. That's a wildcard. So if you have a fleet of cars, for example, they are posting messages to this topic, then if you subscribe on the other side, on the server side, to this hashtag, then you can receive any message, all messages sent by any one of these cars. Or you can specify a particular device and listen to messages only from that one sender, one IoT client. The other way, you can send commands back to one device, like do something, switch on the air conditioning, or you can send a broadcast message to all of your devices, maybe informing them that there's a new firmware available or something. When you send MQTT protocol messages, there's a different quality of service flag that you can use. It's a simple flag. When you send a message, you put there the number 0 or 1. 0 is quality of service 0, meaning no retransmission. It's a bit like UDP, so it's fire and forget. So if there's a problem on the network level, that message is not retransmitted. But it's great for things like telemetry, where you are posting, let's say, sensor readings every 5 seconds or something. You don't care if you lose some data, because a couple of seconds later you send it again with the now latest sensor readings. However, if you want to send a control command to the device, like open the door, start making my coffee, then you want to have retransmission. That's quality of service 1. Then any lost packet lost in the network is detected and retransmitted by MQTT itself. And then you have a keep alive message. You can configure the timeout of the keep alive. That's how often your device says, hi, I'm a vacuum cleaner, I'm here. Hello. So you can configure that, how long it is. Of course, if it's more frequent, your device uses more battery power and network to talk, and if it's less frequent, you're not so sure if it's there anymore. But you can configure it yourself. I mentioned vacuum cleaners and air conditioning units. Those are interesting devices because they may not be there all the time. So the thing with IoT is that the device can disappear from the network. Some of them are literally powered by solar panels. So maybe at night time they drain their battery and they fall asleep. And they wake up again the next morning when the sun comes out, literally. So you try to command one of these devices who's sleeping right now. It's a bit difficult for a developer. How do you send a command to it? Second thing, what is the address of an air conditioning unit? So that's why in the AWS IoT platform we have a feature called Device Shadow. It's a programmatic representation of the device, the physical device. There's a shadow for all of your things in AWS IoT platform, and you can talk to the shadow as a developer using HTTP JSON. You talk to the shadow. You don't need to know where the device is. You don't need to know if the device is online at the moment. You tell the device's shadow to do something. You change the state of the shadow. And then next time the device connects, it will get a command from the shadow, hey, welcome back air conditioning. Your temperature should be 22 degrees. Yes, sir. So let's take a look at this shadow example. Somebody, you have made a mobile app that talks with HTTP JSON, easy, to the device shadow, and simply sends a small HTTP JSON document, engine should be on, to the device shadow. This is the physical world engine controller on the bottom left. And next time the engine controller gets internet, it connects, hi, I'm here, I'm engine controller 27B. Currently I'm off. Welcome back, says AWS IoT platform, and the shadow will say, by the way, you should be on. Aha, got it, on. Vroom, vroom, then the engine starts. So that's how you use the shadow. How do you get started coding on the devices? With IoT, there's a plethora of devices, all kind of funky devices. You need to have code running on the devices. That's why we have made new SDKs, Software Development Kit for IoT Devices. First of all, we have the Arduino SDK for Arduino Yun. Why Arduino Yun? Because it has Wi-Fi. That's kind of needed to talk to the cloud. So with the Arduino libraries, you can get your Arduino Yun to connect securely with AWS IoT, and you can have the libraries for the different services. Then we have Node.js SDK for clients, for IoT clients. So those IoT boards like Raspberry Pi, Intel Edison, BeagleBone, the chip board that run Linux, well, they have package management. So full Linux, you can install the Node SDK. So that's easy for you to get going if you're a Node JavaScript developer. And then we have the C language SDK. This is really important for industrial use cases. Industrial controllers are usually embedded devices with really no operating system. So they run something from the firmware, execute a binary, and typically they are programmed in C language because it's the most efficient and smallest. So together with the hardware manufacturers who make these boards, AWS IoT product line optimizes the C SDK for that particular hardware. Here's an example with MediaTek. So this is one of our hardware partners, MediaTek from Taiwan. The Linkit One board, together with AWS IoT product line, they made the SDK optimized for this device. Now look at the size. 11 kilobytes of code and uses 6 kilobytes of RAM. Not megabytes, not gigabytes, 6 kilobytes of code or RAM. That's not bad. So that's quite small and efficient. It has to be because this is IoT. So the nice thing about getting started with AWS IoT is that you can go online to some popular online stores you may have heard of and others, and you can buy starter kits for IoT. From launch of AWS IoT at re:Invent, we already had 11 hardware manufacturer partners with whom we have made AWS IoT starter kits. So if you buy this starter kit, you get the board, you get the SDK optimized for that board, and example applications that use AWS SDK and IoT service and the device. And it's fully documented, so it's a really cheap and easy way to get going. No more slides. Let's have a demo. So the rest of the time I'd like to show you stuff. So the name of this session is Connected Home. So I was thinking, what could we do with a connected home? Maybe two different things. Telemetry. Let's monitor the temperature and humidity, for example, of this room. And then control. I have here an LED lamp. So imagine this is your lights at your home. And let's control that light with IoT. So two things, telemetry and control. This demo has three parts. Part one, telemetry. For this part, we use the Intel Edison board. And Intel Edison, what is it? It's not exactly this big. Intel Edison is about the size of an SD card. It's very cool, it's very small. However, it's a full-blown x86 machine. It's dual-core Atom, 1.4 gigahertz, a gig of RAM, 1 gigabyte of RAM, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, really powerful machine. How do I use this one? So I have the Intel Edison here. I will show it to you shortly. And connected to my Intel Edison, I have a sensor. It's a humidity and temperature sensor, reading humidity and temperature of the air now. Using AWS Node SDK for IoT clients, I want to send regularly every few seconds. I want to read the temperature value, I want to read the humidity value, and send them with MQTT, with encryption, to AWS IoT platform. Specifically, I want to update the shadow of the Edison device, because shadow is like a state, so what is the state of the room for temperature and humidity? But we are not happy with that. That's just us receiving data into the platform. We need to do something useful with that. So the next thing with the AWS platform for IoT is the rules engine, and that's really cool, because with the rules engine, you can write SQL statements, single line, simple SQL statements that investigate the incoming data and you can act on it. Like, if the temperature of the room is over 25 degrees, then do something, like start the air conditioning. In this case, what I've done is, any data coming from Edison, forward it to Amazon Elasticsearch service. Why? Because Elasticsearch can automatically index the data, and it has Kibana for visualization. So I want to have a dashboard with real-time visualization of the sensor readings. This is the first demo. Let's start that one. So first of all, here we are, AWS console. Make it a bit bigger for you. And you can see the blue box here, AWS IoT. Let's go there. And this one I'm running in Tokyo. By the way, that's now the Singapore AWS IoT service. That's cool. That's very new. This demo is in Tokyo. This is the console for AWS IoT. And it's really a pleasant, simple thing to use, which is good, because then you can develop quickly and easily. First of all, let's look at my things. So I filter here, I select only things. And I have two things here. These are the two things I have here on the table. I will show you soon. I have an Edison, and I have another device for the next demo. So let's click on this Edison thing. And on the right-hand side here, you can see I've given it a name, Edison 3. There is an MQTT topic for the shadow. I'll copy it for later use. And you can see that maybe it's connected because the last update from the device has been a second ago, 5 seconds ago. So every 5 seconds or so, the Edison is talking to the platform, so that's good. And there seems to be a shadow state. This is the shadow. So there's some values in the shadow there. Is it really working? Well, this is actually a serial console connection at the moment to my Edison. So you can see that it's doing stuff. I'm running a Node.js application, which is part of the starter kit. And that's just the log output of that application. So looks like the Edison is doing stuff. But is it really sending to AWS IoT? Well, first what I could do is I could show you what we have here. So how could we do that? I just want to quickly show you the device. Give me just 1 second here. So let's have a poor man's video camera here for me. And I'm going to show you with my phone what I have here. There we go. Yes. So here is the Intel Edison. And actually, the Intel Edison is just that little thing there in the corner, that one little chip there. The rest of it is an expansion board. First an Arduino expansion board, so you can do easy prototyping. On top of that, we have the Seeed Studio Grove expansion board, which allows me to easily plug in sensors. And this is that particular sensor. This is a Grove sensor, comes with the starter kit and many other sensors. This is a humidity and temperature sensor. Okay, so that's the Edison there. Cool. So, are we actually receiving data from the Edison? Maybe, but let's verify. Let's open another window, another tab, and I'll show you that we can use the MQTT protocol directly from the console. There's an MQTT client built into the console. All you need to do is click here, generate a new client ID, click connect. Now I connect to my environment with this client here on the console. Next option, subscribe to a topic, MQTT topic. And I paste here the topic of the Edison shadow. See, AWS, things, Edison 3, name of the thing, shadow. And any updates come into that shadow. And then I click subscribe. So now we are trying to read any information, any packets coming from the Edison, and here we go. So it looks like we are receiving raw data from the Edison. So that's now refreshing every few seconds when bling like that, when a new piece of data comes in. You can see from the timestamps that it's about every 5 seconds. So there's a temperature reading, there's a humidity reading, and a relay state, which is currently false. The lamp is off. So that's cool. How did the Edison authenticate itself? Let me show you some of those things as well. We have a certificate that was created by the platform when I created my thing here. So this is the certificate of the Edison. When it tries to communicate, it has to authenticate with this. Once the authentication is successful, we have a policy, identity and access management policy, that defines the granular level security. What can this Edison do after it connects? Well, this particular Edison is allowed to use the IoT service. And that's it, nothing else. This Edison cannot talk to DynamoDB, S3, SNS, billing, IAM. Only send and receive IoT messages. So that's an example of an attached policy then. Okay, so we are receiving data, as you can see. Packets are coming in. How do we send it to Elasticsearch? That's the next part of this user interface, the rules. So I've created a simple rule Edison, temperature and humidity to Elasticsearch. I select the rule in the user interface. Give it a second to load. Try again. There we go. So this is the rule, and that is the line of code, single line of code that I had to write. Select any packet coming from Edison. That's it. Any data that the Edison is sending, in this case, is matching the rule. So the rule activates. You could put here, if temperature is higher than 27, then activate. So that would be a threshold that triggers the rule. In this case, every single packet from Edison triggers this rule. What is the rule? It has an action. Amazon Elasticsearch action. And you can do this directly from the user interface, from the console. Very easy. For example, you can kick off a Lambda function. In this case, we call the Elasticsearch action, which in practice takes the data sent by Edison and just puts it in Elasticsearch service. Which one? That one. So let's go to Elasticsearch and see what we have there. So, scrolling, here we go, Elasticsearch service. So Amazon Elasticsearch service lets you have an Elasticsearch cluster, and it fully automates managing that cluster. I have a cluster called IoT visualization. And when we look at the indexes, you can see Edison tree here. There are 6,000 pieces of information, 6,000 records here. And you can see that Elasticsearch somehow understands what is the format of the data coming in. Actually, it auto-detected the data format from the JSON sent by the Edison. You can see here humidity, temperature, etc. Now, the reason I chose to use Elasticsearch as the destination is this, Kibana. We have packaged Kibana into the Elasticsearch service. It's part of that same project. And Kibana is a nice visualization tool. So here we are in Kibana. You can see that there seem to be data records. These are these individual JSON documents received by Elasticsearch from IoT and then automatically passed by Elasticsearch. But what we really want to have is a dashboard. So let's go to the dashboards. I load a dashboard that I defined earlier for temperature and humidity, and I start automatically refreshing it every 5 seconds. So here we go. Now, the blue line on the top is the current humidity reading from the sensor. The green line near the bottom is the current temperature, because I put them in the same graph. Temperature is just over 20 degrees, humidity is about 70%. Okay, let me now breathe into the humidity sensor, and let's see what happens. There, I gave it a nice breath of fresh air, boom. Ooh. There you go. You can see the temperature went up a little bit, maybe like a degree, because my breath was a bit warmer than the ambient air. But look at the humidity, bang. But now it starts dissipating, so the humidity starts dropping around the sensor. So now what we have is real-time telemetry, real-time dashboard of the state of the house with the sensor information. That was demo 1, but we can do more. For the second demo, we use a second device called the chip. The chip is a really cool Kickstarter project. It's a really tiny $9 computer. Runs Linux, runs Debian, which is cool, dual-core ARM CPU. And how could we use the chip? I want to do some control. Let's control the lights, in this case this LED light here. I want to control that light with this chip device right here. It's very small. There's a button here. There's a little board on top of the chip, and it has a general purpose button. We have a little piece of JSON, Node.js code here, that reads the button click and sends a simple MQTT message. So every time I click the button, it sends one MQTT message. So when that happens, we publish the MQTT message. It goes to another rule in the rules engine that does two things. Sends the information received from the device to my phone using SNS, Simple Notification Service, and more importantly, the rules engine of IoT calls AWS Lambda, specifically a function that I've made that changes the state of the lamp. If the current state of the lamp is off, then lambda will change it on. And if it's on, it will change it off. So it's flipping the lights. Where? The lambda function is talking to the shadow of the lamp, of the Edison. Lambda changes the shadow of the Edison, and then the shadow automatically communicates with the real Edison here. Let's see if that works. I take this little chip device, I click the button, and see what happens. Ooh, I heard a click, but something funny has happened to my connectivity here. The relay switch is actually on. So it worked, but my light is off. Usually it's a soldering issue in this case. Oh dear. Don't know if you can see the red light here. Probably can, maybe. So for some reason, I know why. This is not getting power. So let's put it here. Now. The power supply is potentially dead now. Yes, I think we have a power supply issue here. That is not good. So I have a 12-volt power supply that is now dying on me. Maybe now. Let's try. Oh dear, we have a demo effect because I have potentially broken hardware here. Try a few times. Anybody in the tech team have a small screwdriver? I could go on with the presentation while we... Olli, are you still here? I have a little task for you while I present the next slide. So, we'll get this sorted out. Don't worry. Sorry about the small delay. And scissors. So this fell off. Can you unscrew this? Peel some cable and put it back in and tighten it. Okay. This is the cool thing about IoT. Things like this happen. Hardware breaks. Okay. Never mind. We'll get this demo going. I'll switch off the power so Olli doesn't get electrocuted on stage here. Let's take this off. This is actually exactly how IoT prototyping works. So while he's doing that kindly, I will show you the next phase of the demo. And then when Olli gets the cable sorted, what actually happened was that soldering failed and the cable fell out. So Olli is peeling the cable and putting it back into this socket here. Thank you, Olli. I will show you the light working. I believe it will work after Olli fixes it. No pressure. Then we can try again with the click, but let's move to the next part of the demo. Voice control. How could we control the lights with our voice? Let's use Amazon Alexa service. Still using the same hardware.
I think you might not want to show this.
Oh dear. No, gone. I know, put it straight. Okay. Let's use voice control for this IoT demo. So using still the same device, the chip board here, which runs Linux, we can make the control of the light even better. So we can click the button, it sends an MQTT message. I hope to be able to show it to you soon. We can also do this. We can install the Amazon Alexa SDK, software development kit, on the device, register it as an Alexa-capable device in the Alexa service, And then I should be able to say, Alexa, tell Edison to control the light, switch on the light and switch off the light. How does that technically work? The chip device uses the Alexa SDK, records the voice, sends it to the Alexa service running in the cloud, and if it detects that I say, tell Edison, tell what? Tell Edison. What is Edison here? It's an Alexa skill that I have created. It's pointing to a Lambda function. So Alexa will detect that Edison is the name of a skill, a customization in my Alexa profile that is implemented by AWS Lambda. So if this works, Alexa will call the Lambda function, and the Lambda function does the same as it did before, flips the shadow state of the device. And then Lambda will reply back to Alexa with a JSON document that tells Alexa to say, I switch the light for you. So let me show you the developer pages for Alexa first. How did I define that? We log into the developer side of Amazon, developer.amazon.com. See, create a smarter home with Alexa. I sign in. And I will show you the skill configuration there for Edison. So we go to Applications and Services. We go to Alexa side. And here we have the Alexa skill kit. Let's go there. And you can see that I have defined something called Edison lamp. Aha. So let's click on this skill called Edison lamp and see how I have configured it. There's an application ID, it has a name Edison lamp, and the invocation name is Edison. So this skill is triggered when I say Edison, tell Edison to do something. What is the interaction model? Tell Edison what? The intent is to turn the light on or off. And there's something called utterances, which is the words you want to say. So I should be able to say, tell Alexa, tell Edison to turn the light on or turn the light off. Then they will match. What happens when that is done, when I say those words? Simply execute this particular Lambda function. So Alexa should call and trigger this Lambda function, thing shadow flip. Okay, so we use Alexa voice command to trigger a Lambda function. That's the point. What Lambda function? Let's go to Lambda console. This particular one. Here. And I will show you the code, the relevant parts of the code. So here we have the Lambda function. First of all, it will get the shadow state of the Edison. So what is the current state of the lamp, on or off? Current state is Olli is fixing it. Okay, so then if the lamp is on or off, what happens is that if the current relay state is off, then turn it to on. If it's true, then switch it to false. Thank you, Olli. Let's try. And then simply using this command, IoT data update shadow, this Lambda function will change the shadow state of the relay to the new state. And by the way, if Alexa calls it, then this Lambda function will reply with a response that Alexa understands. Output speech, plain text, I switch the light for you. Aha, that's what Alexa should reply to us if this Lambda function triggers. So let's give it a go. So let's look at the shadow of the Edison. Find my thing again. Currently the relay state is false, right? Relay state is false. So we enable the power to the lamp, Olli's hardware work was successful here. Thank you, Olli, so much. And now we try. Please enable the audio to the device. Alexa, are you there? Give it a couple of seconds.
Yes, I'm here. I listen when you press the mic button.
Ah, boost the volume a bit higher. Okay, so that's the chip device, by the way. This device is now running the Alexa SDK. It's a bit slow because it's a little $9 computer. That's why it takes a few seconds to process. Let's try something else. Alexa, where are you now?
I'm here and my head is in the cloud.
Ah. Alexa, what is the temperature in Singapore now?
Currently, in Singapore it's 30 degrees with thunderstorms and partly sunny skies. Tonight, you can look for clouds with thunder showers, with a low of 27 degrees.
Okay, now let's do the real demo. Alexa, tell Edison to switch on the light.
I switched the light for you.
Ah. Sorry, Olli, I think I need to replace my lamp. However, thank you for your efforts. However, I can still show you that it works. It's kind of crappy that the light didn't come on, but can you see that bright red light here? That means that the relay switch is on. So we are giving power to the lamp, even though the lamp itself is dead. So let's try to switch this light off. Alexa, tell Edison to switch off the light.
I switched the light for you.
Yay! And by the way, if I click this one button here on the chip device, that should also control this relay switch. I click again, I click again. These are MQTT messages by clicking this one button. All right, yay. So sorry about the little hassle with broken hardware, but that happens with hardware prototyping. Anyway, to wrap up, this was the demo. So on the chip device, Alexa SDK, talk to Alexa service, calls Lambda function, change the shadow state, shadow talks to the actual device. So to wrap up, with AWS IoT, you can connect a device easily, one device or a billion devices. The connections are secure with standard internet security, and it's really easy to get started. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.